The Saturn myth is an interpretation of mythology that maintains that the planet Saturn was once the primary body, a sun, in Earth's ancient sky. It further implies that the planets were aligned on a common axis below Saturn's southern pole. The term Proto-Saturn has been coined to refer to the body during that ancient time. Eduardo Cardona, a comparative mythologist, examines that concept in detail in his Star series of books. David Talbot, author of the book The Saturn Myth, mentioned the colors derived from mythology attributed to the planets, including a blue or gray color for Mars. Later, in an interview in the periodical Aeon, Talbot mentions the blue-gray color of Mars changing to rusty red. This description referred to a time when the planets were in the polar axial alignment. This video presents a speculative scenario based initially on the change in the color of Mars and upon an information gleaned from the mythohistoric record. Graphical illustrations of Martian shorelines are excerpts from an analysis of the work of Clifford and Parker, who mapped apparent Martian shorelines based on their examination of the present Martian surface. A three-dimensional Mars model was created using the NASA Digital Elevation Model of Mars. The Proto-Saturnian system existed initially as an independent system in space moving in the direction of the Sol system. The Proto-Saturnian system contained at least Mars and Earth. Venus was ejected from Proto-Saturn's core after entry into the Sol system. Mars and Earth contained oceans and substantial atmospheres, such that Mars had a blue-gray coloration when viewed from a distance in the axial alignment of planets. Mars did not, at that time, have a severely excavated northern hemisphere. As the Proto-Saturnian system approached the Sol system, the axial alignment of planets developed, and after entering the Sol system, Mars's northern hemisphere was electrically excavated to form an extensive northern basin, nearly in its present configuration. During this process, Mars's original ocean was removed, along with crustal material from the North Polar region. It is likely that Mars's color changed to red this time. Clifford and Parker created a map of the remains of several shorelines, one of which they named Meridiani. The Meridiani lines, red lines at the bottom of the graphic, are outside the excavated area, implying that Meridiani predated the excavation event. To fit an ocean to those lines is virtually impossible today. Sometime later, Mars was inundated with water from Proto-Saturn, and perhaps Earth too received an influx of water. The water deposited on Mars formed a prolate tide dictated by the combined forces of Proto-Saturn's gravitational influence, diamagnetic effects imposed by Proto-Saturn's magnetic field, and the axial rotation of Mars. The ocean so formed created the Arabia shoreline recorded by Clifford and Parker, and it extended into the area later occupied by the Tharsis Rise. The Arabia Sea was in place long enough to leave the recorded residual shorelines. The Tharsis region, comprised of Olympus Mons, Ascraeus Mons, Pavonis Mons, Arsis Mons, and Alba Patera, formed a bulge that tilted the Arabia shorelines that now extend southward a short distance into the Tharsis Rise from Acheron Fosse and Tempe Terra. The bulge of the Tharsis Rise caused water to flow away from the Tharsis area of the Arabia Sea. The Arabia Sea gradually dissipated, leaving behind a smaller body of water which left its imprint recorded as the Deuteronilus shoreline. The Arabia shoreline stops at longitude 217, interrupted by the Atharsis Rise, and picks up again at longitude 266. A small portion of the Arabia shoreline defines the northern edge of Acheron Fosse and is tilted upslope toward the Tharsis Highland. Acheron Fosse may have been an island in the Arabia Sea. Another portion of the Arabia shoreline at the western edge of Tempe Terra also is tilted upslope toward the Tharsis Highland. This animation illustrates the tilted shorelines. The tilt indicates that the Arabia Ocean was emplaced prior to the highlands reaching their present elevation and extent. In summary, the apparent order of events is as follows. An original Martian ocean existed before Proto-Saturn encountered the Sol system. Meridian lines may be residual from that time. The northern basins were excavated after entry into the Sol system and the creation of the polar alignment of planets. Water expelled from Saturn filled the northern basins, forming the Arabia Ocean. The Tharsis Rise was not yet present. The Arabia Ocean dissipated, Mars' spin axis was altered, and the remaining water formed the Deuteronilus Ocean. The Tharsis Rise was created, tilting the Arabia shorelines upward toward the south. A portion of the surface at Chrysae Planitia and farther south was depressed. Sometime after the formation of the Deuteronilus Ocean, Mars became cold enough to freeze its exposed water. One of the lobes covered the area now known as Utopia Basin, one of the deepest locations in the northern hemisphere. In this animation, the vertical dimension is gradually increased to show the large geometric shapes covered by the Martian regolith. The shapes may be the frozen remains of the Deuteronilus Ocean.